Now folks, the IRS has just released some shocking news on the upcoming relief checks. It's confirmed that some Americans will have to wait longer than others to receive their relief money, and President Biden is meeting with Democrats to create a new action plan that would actually address inflation. And now millions of taxpayers have already been waiting 4 or 5 months for their federal income tax returns after completing 1040 paper returns and putting those returns in the mail in late January or February. No money's in sight in late June, and frankly everybody, the wait will take longer. The IRS has essentially been unable to process the paper 1040 returns that individuals filed in 2022 until it's finished processing the pile-up paperwork, which was filed in 2021. It's a first in, first out process for paper returns, and if the IRS is not done with processing paper 1040 returns filed by individuals in 2021, it cannot move on paper returns filed so this year. This week, the IRS said the agency will hit a milestone of all sorts and be done processing all of the originally filed Form 1040 paper returns without errors that are received in 2021. As of June 10th, the IRS has processed more than 4.5 million out of a total of more than 4.7 million individual taxpayer returns received in 2021. It's an important step that will enable the IRS to move on to work on the 1040 individual paper returns filed in 2022. You cannot get a refund if the IRS doesn't process the return. Unfortunately, many taxpayers have absolutely no idea that the IRS is buried in this much paperwork. The accumulation of paper returns has been a troublesome development since the crisis shutdown shook up the system. While some progress has been made, it's not enough to get the job done. About 8 million federal returns filed by paper will be mailed to the IRS so far this year. More will arrive at some taxpayers who requested extensions also will file by paper. The IRS maintains that it's critical for those who still need to file a tax return this year to file electronically, if possible by year end. The IRS projects that it can start the next tax season in 2023 without a paperwork backlog. The IRS had a backlog of 20 million unprocessed paper tax returns by the end of May, an increase of 1.3 million over the same time last year. During 2021, the report noted that the IRS received about 17 million paper individual income tax returns and about 21 million paper business tax returns. Paper returns take longer than electronically filed returns, even if there are no mistakes or issues. Before the crisis, someone who filed a return by paper might have to wait 4 to 6 weeks for a refund. Many taxpayers who filed paper returns in 2021 got caught in the backlog and reported waiting 6 months and longer to receive the refunds. The IRS acknowledged and said, to date, more than twice as many returns await processing compared to a typical year at this point in the calendar year. Recently, 3 top advisors to President Biden attended a meeting with Democratic lawmakers with a focus on the economy. Instead of managing an economy in the midst of a natural rotation away from recovery and into a stable period of growth, officials are analyzing and modeling worst-case scenarios, like what the shocking gas prices will be, hitting $200 per barrel, and what it means for the economy. Soaring prices, low poll numbers, and majorities that appear to be on the brink have created no shortage of reasons for unease.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Peters, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been listening for a while, and it strikes me as the one thing we've learned from the debt ceiling discussion is that the debt ceiling is not the answer. Whatever the problem is, the existence of the debt ceiling is not keeping us from being $30 trillion in debt. And the reason is because it's the real analogy. It's not some warning light. It's the credit card bill. You've already spent that money. You, your family, your spouse, your kids, they already rang up that account. And the only responsible thing to do is to pay the bill. And by the time you get to the bill, it's too late to talk about the spending. Let's face facts that the debt ceiling has become a political cudgel rather than some sort of useful policy tool. So those of us who are worried about debt and deficit shouldn't just talk about whether this is good or bad. It's clearly not doing the job. Let's talk about something new. And I think a lot of my good colleagues on the Democratic side support repealing the debt ceiling limit altogether. And I think there's good reason for that because it is an artificial tool. It carries too much risk to be used for political games. But I don't think one of my Republican colleagues just thinks we can get rid of it. So last year, I just want to let you know, I teamed up with Congressman Jody Arrington and the Bipartisan Policy Center to craft and introduce the Responsible Budgeting Act. So this bill would eliminate the danger of debt limit brinksmanship and offers Congress 2 ways to actually deal with the national debt. First, we would pass a budget resolution that satisfies specific debt reduction measures while simultaneously passing a joint resolution that the president can sign to suspend the debt limit until the next fiscal year. And then if Congress fails to pass that concurrent budget resolution, the second option allows the president to suspend the debt ceiling, him or herself, which Congress could vote to override. And with the suspension, the president's obligated to send a debt reduction proposal to the Hill. Congress would have to consider that proposal or come up with something of its own. It's a little bit complex, but it's a heck of a lot better than pointing fingers at each other and dodging the bullet every year or two. So, Dr. Blessing, you noted that while the debt ceiling debate may bring attention to fiscal issues, it carries too much risk to be considered a useful tool. Do you think a reform like the one I described could move the ball forward in having a more productive conversation about controlling federal debt?
I now recognize the ranking member of the committee, the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry, for 4 minutes.
Well, look, Chairman Powell, we appreciate you being here, and I say to the chair of the committee that this is the House. The Senate does nominations. If we wish to have an opinion and direct the Senate, we should go run for the Senate. We have the Fed chair here at a time of unprecedented economic conditions and a war that's happening. I think we should stay focused on that. Chair Powell, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your steady hand and your approach over this quite tumultuous first term of yours, and congratulations on your nomination and the expected confirmation of your second term. As we all know, the Financial Services Committee Republicans have offered and requested the Biden administration not approve the $17 billion in an International Monetary Fund special drawing rights for Russia's reserves last year. My hope is that my Democrat colleagues will withdraw their support for $60 billion in additional reserves from Moscow in this year's omnibus that is being negotiated right now. We stand in a bipartisan way with the people of Ukraine, and we are grateful for their bravery. And we want to do everything in our power to assist and support them. Again, thank you, Chair Powell, for your leadership. America's facing the worst inflation we've seen in 4 decades because of Democrats' reckless spending here on Capitol Hill. Instead of a course correction, House Democrats keep hoping the Senate will take up the $2 trillion in new spending through Build Back Better, or whatever they're going to call it. This would only make rising prices worse for families across the country. A Wharton budget model estimates the average American family spent $3,500 more last year to keep up with rising prices. Nowhere is this more evident than at the supermarket, where folks are seeing a 22% increase in grocery bills, according to a recent KPMG study. For a family of 4, this can mean choosing between groceries they need and saving for their child's education, their retirement, or even a home. The American people should not have to mortgage their future because of Democrats' love of more government spending to give them the illusion of prosperity in the moment. And despite what we've heard from President Biden last night,